My name is Leona Carter. I'm 35 years old, and last Sunday I walked barefoot and in jeans into a place where everyone expected me to be invisible. That place, Stonehill Heights Country Club. It's where the Carters, my family, have spent the last 2 decades pretending they own the ocean. Fundraisers, galas, political dinners, you name it. If it sparkled and excluded 90% of the population, my parents were front and center. And on that particular Sunday, they were hosting their usual members-only brunch. The kind where everyone dresses like they're about to shake hands with a senator, not eat an omelet. So, when I strolled in barefoot in frayed jeans and a plain white button-down, every neck on that terrace turned like it had been yanked by the same string. I didn't flinch. I didn't speed up. I just kept walking. I hadn't even reached the table when I heard my father's voice cut through the hum of violins and champagne flutes. You have got to be kidding me. James Carter, real estate mogul, reputation freak, my father. I turned casually, as if he hadn't just tried to slap the air with his voice. Morning, Dad. He looked me up and down, like I was some stranger who'd wandered in from the beach. Leona, what the hell are you wearing? Clothes, I said. Breathable ones. My mother, Elaine Carter, hadn't stood up yet, but her eyes had already completed a full scan of my outfit, her face locked in that frozen smile she uses when she wants to scream but can't risk the wrinkles. This is a private club, she said, her voice syrupy sweet, but sharp. You can't just walk in dressed like that. I'm on the guest list, I replied calmly. Or, did the RSVP get lost in your assistant's inbox? Across the table, my brother Nathan was avoiding eye contact. Of course he was. Golden boy, newly elected to the city council. Hair perfect suit, sharper than a razor. He wasn't going to stick his neck out for me, not in front of donors. Not ever. My father stood up. Slowly, deliberately. I want you off this property. Now. He flagged down a nearby server like he was swatting a fly. Get the club manager. Tell them James Carter needs to speak to them immediately. The server looked at me confused, then back at my father, then nodded and walked off. Silence fell over the patio. The kind of silence that only happens when rich people sense a scandal and don't want to miss the first act. I stepped forward and pulled out an empty chair. The same one they'd never offered me all these years. Relax, I said. I'm not here to ruin your brunch. Just wanted to enjoy the view. My mother leaned forward, her pearls catching the sun. Leona, she hissed, don't make a scene. But it was too late for that. Everyone was already watching. The couple at the next table had literally paused mid-mimosa. A waiter had stopped walking mid-stride. Phones weren't out yet, but I could feel them coming. And yet, I stayed calm. My voice didn't rise. My expression didn't change. I didn't come here to cause a scene, I said, standing and locking eyes with both of them. But I won't be leaving quietly either. Not today. Not ever again. It's funny how a single moment can take you back years. The way my father looked at me like I dragged mud across his perfect marble floor, it wasn't new. It was just the latest scene in a script they've been trying to cast me in my whole life. Except I never wanted the role. Growing up as a Carter meant one thing. There was a right way to exist, and my brother Nathan had perfected it. He was the prototype, the polished, obedient heir, top of his class, varsity tennis, Columbia undergrad, then straight into law school, internships with all the right names. Our parents saw him as their golden investment. And me, I was the experiment they gave up on halfway through. I was always the one asking why, always the one coloring outside the lines, literally. Art shows, film editing, random screenwriting workshops they never bothered to attend. They used to say Leona's just finding herself. But what they really meant was she's not like us, and we don't know what to do with that. I dropped out of Columbia my sophomore year. They said it was impulsive. I said it was survival. I couldn't breathe in a world where success was measured in pedigree and posture. So I left. Worked the night shift at a 24-hour diner, then cleaned motel bathrooms during the day, 6 months straight of bleach and minimum wage. But for the first time, my life was mine. When I finally packed my things and left home for good, no one stopped me. There was no dramatic airport chase, no teary-eyed goodbyes, just a stiff nod from my father and a dry, "You'll regret this," from my mother. They didn't say it, but I knew what they were thinking. Let her fail, she'll come crawling back. Except I didn't. I scraped by, I built something, I learned to fight quiet battles away from their spotlight. While Nathan was shaking hands with mayors and smiling for campaign photos, I was learning what real power looks like. Not money, not name, but grit. Back at brunch, standing there on that pristine patio, I could feel it, the weight of all their expectations pressing down again. It didn't matter that I was 35. Didn't matter what I'd built. In their eyes, I was still the disappointment. Then it happened. The moment that cut deeper than I expected. My father, loud enough for half the terrace to hear, pointed right at me and said, "You don't belong here, Leona." That sentence didn't just hang in the air, it burned. Because he wasn't talking about my clothes, he was talking about me. As if all these years later, after everything I'd survived, nothing I'd done was enough. As if the only place I'd ever fit was outside. And for a second, just a second, I felt like I was 17 again. Standing at the edge of our front porch, suitcase in hand, wondering if I was making a mistake. But not anymore, because this time I wasn't leaving. This time I was going to make damn sure they remembered exactly who they tried to cast aside. I used to think the worst thing that could happen was disappointing my family. Turns out it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because rock bottom, that's where I learned how to build. My first real job after leaving home was scrubbing bathrooms at a highway motel outside San Diego. The kind of place where the vending machine barely worked and the carpet smelled like mildew and cigarettes. People didn't see me. They saw the uniform, the mop, the name tag with the wrong name on it. Lena, it said, not even worth getting right. I got used to hearing "Sweetheart, clean this," or "You missed a spot." I got used to being invisible, but not to Maya. She was the front desk agent, 22 sharp as a blade, and never once apologized for taking up space. The first time we talked, I had just spilled bleach on my sneakers. She walked in, looked at me sitting on the floor with my knees up and said, "You planning to cry or you want lunch?" That was Maya. No sugarcoating, no pity, just real. We became inseparable. Double shifts, late night breakdowns in the stockroom, laughing until 2 a.m. because someone left a rubber chicken in the ice machine. We survived 100 little humiliations, one crappy paycheck at a time. But every now and then, when the motel was quiet and the guests were asleep, we'd sit at the check-in counter and talk about something bigger. About what could be. What if we ran our own place? What if people actually mattered there? What if luxury didn't mean exclusion, but care? We kept a notebook under the counter. We called it the Dream File. Ideas, sketches, training programs, pricing models. We had no investors, no support, definitely no blueprint. But we had vision, and we had each other. We saved every dollar we could, lived in tiny apartments with broken heaters and cockroach roommates, took online classes at night, wrote pitch decks on borrowed laptops. Then came the first betrayal. An investor we trusted promised to back our first renovation. We signed a lease, hired part-time staff. Then he ghosted us, just vanished with our deposit and our trust. We almost gave up, but we didn't, because we knew how to suffer, and more importantly, we knew how to survive it. We renamed everything, called it Horizon Revival, because that's what we were doing, reviving what everyone else had left behind. One coastal inn, one forgotten property, one broken-down building at a time. We didn't just flip real estate. We rebuilt entire experiences, places that had been neglected, mismanaged, or dismissed. And people started to notice. Word spread, clients came, then press, then real revenue. We weren't just two girls from nowhere anymore. We were building a company, a movement, and among the projects we took on, There was one property. It had a long gated driveway, weathered stone walls, a panoramic view of the sea. It used to be pristine, but when I first toured it, the foundation was cracked. The roof leaked, staff turnover was high, membership was plummeting. They said it was beyond saving. But I knew better. I'd seen that building before. I'd seen it from across a brunch table year after year as a guest no one ever wanted to claim. That place was Stonehill Heights Country Club, and I was going to buy it, fix it, quietly. No announcement, no press release, no look what I did, just action. Because the thing about building from nothing, you don't need applause, you just need the key. Stonehill Heights wasn't just a country club. To my family, it was sacred ground. It's where my parents celebrated anniversaries, made political connections, and curated the Carter image like it was a brand campaign. That patio was their stage, that terrace, their throne. So when it came up for sale quietly and off-market, I didn't even blink. I bought it, not in my name, of course. That would have ruined everything. I used a series of shell buyers LLCs filed in states my family would never think to check. Silent partners, hidden capital, every detail scrubbed clean. They never saw my fingerprints, and that was exactly the point. I didn't want them to know. Not yet. Not until it meant something. I didn't want a gotcha moment. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the work to speak. For 9 straight months, we gutted it, remodeled the event spaces, upgraded the kitchen, revamped the marina, new staff policies, full cultural reset, no more whisper networks, no more favoritism for legacy members. If you were rude to staff, you were out. Period. The place didn't just look different. It felt different. And on paper, it belonged to Horizon Revival Properties. But in spirit, it was mine. I'd stand in the hallway sometimes during construction and just listen. The echo of saws, the thud of boots, the smell of fresh plaster and sea air mixing together. It was the sound of something being reborn. Still, I never imagined I'd reveal it like this, dressed down, standing barefoot in front of my parents, while brunch guests watched like it was theater. But then, my father raised his voice and said the magic words. I want to speak to the owner. And just like that, the moment I never planned for became the moment I couldn't avoid. I turned my head as a staff member, Lila, one of the new hosts we trained ourselves, approached me carefully. Her voice low. They're waiting at the front desk, she said. Then her eyes flicked toward the main lobby. Your father's furious. I didn't say anything. Just nodded once and took a breath. So this was it. The reveal I'd never rehearsed. The power shift they never saw coming. I didn't know what was waiting for me at that front desk. But I knew one thing for sure. They were about to learn whose name was really on the deed. I walked through the hall like I'd done 100 times during renovations. Only this time, I wasn't wearing a hard hat. I wasn't carrying blueprints or quietly fixing someone else's mess. This time, I was walking into a storm I didn't start, but one I was finally ready to end. The lobby of Stonehill Heights had never felt so quiet. Not silent quiet in that tense, charged way, like the air was waiting to snap. And at the center of it was my father, James Carter, mid-rant, hands gesturing, voice sharp and clipped. He was standing at the front desk scolding the staff like they were school children. This is a disgrace, he barked. I don't care who approved her entry. I want someone held accountable. You let her walk in here like she owns the damn place. Behind him, my mother looked pale. Her arms crossed, her expression tight. My brother Nathan stood nearby, glued to his phone like it was a lifeline. And everyone else? Oh, they were watching. Guests, staff, members. A few were pretending not to stare, but some weren't pretending at all. One man openly had his phone pointed, trying to look like he was checking email. The woman behind the front desk, Patricia, was trying her best to stay composed. She glanced up, saw me approaching, and straightened her posture. "Mr. Carter," she said, interrupting him softly but firmly. "The owner is here now." My father froze. He turned toward the entrance, expecting to see someone important. He wasn't expecting me. I stepped forward, calm, steady, not a smirk, not a gloat, just a quiet kind of power. "You wanted the owner," I said. I held his stare. Well, here I am. There was a beat of silence so loud it felt physical. Then came the reaction. My mother dropped her champagne glass. It hit the marble and shattered. Nathan's jaw tightened, but he didn't say a word. My father blinked once. Then again. "No," he said. "You're not serious." "I'm very serious," I replied. "I've owned this club for months through Horizon Revival." He looked at Patricia, then back at me like the whole world had started speaking a language he couldn't understand. "This is some kind of joke." Patricia didn't flinch. "No, sir. Her name's on the ownership documents." Another beat, another breath, and then he laughed. "Short, dry, mean. Let me guess," he said. "You're here to make a point, embarrass us in public?" I shook my head. "No, I didn't come here to embarrass you." I took a step closer, my voice low but clear. "You built your life on appearances?" "I built mine on grit." You could hear the words land. They didn't spark a fight. They didn't cause yelling. They just broke something. The silence after that was heavier than any argument we'd ever had, because deep down I think he knew. He wasn't looking at the daughter he had dismissed, or the girl who left home with a duffel bag and no backup plan. He was looking at the woman who now owned the very ground he was standing on. And in that moment, he had nothing to say. I didn't plan to go viral, but within 24 hours, I was on every screen in America. The headline wasn't even creative. "Daughter humiliates family at elite country club, then drops the bombshell," a 30-second clip. My father yelling, Patricia saying the owner is here, then me stepping forward. Calm, direct. "You wanted the owner. Here I am." That moment exploded. Daytime news, opinion panels, Reddit threads, think pieces. Half the world saw it as a triumph. The other half, a betrayal. "She's an icon for working women everywhere," one host said. "She's cold, calculated, disrespectful," said another. My inbox filled with interview requests, speaking invitations, podcast pitches. Meanwhile, my father, he filed a lawsuit for defamation, for misrepresentation of character, for deliberately causing reputational damage to the Carter name, the same name that spent years pretending I didn't exist. Maya sat across from me in my office, flipping through the documents with a look that was half disgust, half disbelief. "He's not suing for reputation," she muttered. "He's suing because he lost control." She was right. This wasn't about the law. This was about power and what it meant when he didn't have it anymore. Still, I didn't want to respond emotionally. I needed strategy. So I called in Jordan. He was my PR lead. Smart, unshakable, the kind of guy who could spin a broken fire alarm into a wellness feature. He came in holding a tablet already loaded with charts and media coverage. "Here's the thing," he said. "You're not just a CEO anymore. You're a symbol now." I raised an eyebrow. A symbol for what he scrolled to a clip of a morning show. It was me frozen on the screen in mid-sentence. They said I didn't belong here. Over it, a headline, "Respect doesn't wear a name tag." That Jordan said. "That's your narrative. That's what we lead with." He was right. Because this wasn't just about my family anymore. It was about every server who'd been talked down to. Every daughter told to sit down and smile. Every person who knew what it felt like to be treated as less, because their name didn't carry the right kind of weight. I leaned back in my chair. If we're going to do this, I said we'd do it without bitterness. No revenge, no clapbacks, just truth. Jordan nodded. Maya smirked. Truth with receipts. So we drafted a statement. Simple, clear, no drama. At Horizon Revival, we believe dignity isn't a luxury, it's a right. Respect doesn't come from bloodlines. It comes from how you treat people. The press ate it up. The comment section didn't agree. Some called it brave. Others called it fake. You embarrassed your parents. She's just another spoiled rich girl playing victim. I stopped reading after the third hour, not because it didn't sting, but because I knew the truth, and so did they. The difference was, I no longer needed them to believe it. I just needed to keep standing in it. It didn't happen with fireworks. There was no dramatic press conference, no cameras, no applause, just a quiet meeting, a stack of documents, and the end of a legacy that had gone unchecked for far too long. Maya found the first thread. She was going through old board emails, digging through Stonehill records from before I took over. Just routine internal cleanup. But then, something caught her eye. An approval memo. Unusual timing. No oversight. Then another. A vendor contract that bypassed the standard bidding process. It didn't take long to see the pattern. Sweetheart deals, backdoor agreements, golf memberships extended to friends who didn't meet the income minimum. Renovation contracts handed to companies connected to my father's so-called charitable foundation. And every single signature, James Carter. We verified it, then double verified. No assumptions, no guesswork, just facts. When we presented the findings to the board, no one argued. Not even the members who'd once called my father a pillar of the community. They read the pages in silence, one by one, and then they voted. Unanimous. Effective immediately, James Carter was removed from all honorary positions, stripped of privileges, and barred from decision-making influence. I didn't smile. I didn't post about it. Because justice, real justice, isn't loud. It just moves forward. Later that week, I saw him in the lobby. Same marble floors, same club he once ruled like it was built for him. He was holding the letter in one hand, the official one, signed and sealed. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't towering like he used to. He just stood there, shoulders lowered like something had been peeled away. When I walked past, he looked at me, not with anger, not even with shame. Just confusion, like he was seeing a stranger. "I don't know who you are anymore," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I stopped. Met his eyes. "I think that's the problem," I replied. He didn't answer. He just turned letters still in his hand. And as he walked out the front doors, I saw something strange. His shadow, long and stretched against the floor. The same posture I remembered as a kid, walking 2 steps behind him, trying to keep up. But now his shadow left the club before he did. Like even it was done carrying the weight. And just like that, he was gone. A few weeks later, life had settled into something that almost resembled normal. The press had moved on to fresher scandals. The club was operating smoothly, and I was already knee-deep in blueprints for our next coastal project up in Monterey. New location, new vision, clean start. I was reviewing candidate profiles when a name stopped me cold. Claire Holt. I knew that name. Not just from the resume. Claire was Maya's sister. Years ago, she'd worked front desk at Stonehill. Kind, focused, always professional. But she was fired by Elaine Carter, my mother, for lacking polish. That was the official reason. The unofficial one, she stood up for a junior server who got harassed by a member. Back then, speaking up got you removed quietly. No ceremony, no explanation. I remembered how Claire had helped me once too, after I spilled coffee on myself in the old cafe. She gave me a towel, a smile, and never made me feel small. That stayed with me. Now her resume showed she'd gone on to run a successful boutique inn during the pandemic, led her team through staffing shortages, rebuilt guest satisfaction from scratch, turned a loss into profit, all while raising 2 kids. She didn't lack polish. She had grit. I called her in. She walked into my office nervous, unsure why she'd been contacted. Thought maybe we wanted a reference or an apology. I shook her hand and said, "You're not here for either. I want you to run our new property." She blinked, stunned. Then her voice cracked. Are you sure? I nodded. You deserved better back then. I can't rewrite that, but I can give you now. Sometimes justice doesn't show up in headlines. Sometimes it looks like a second chance signed on company letterhead. A few days later, I got another visitor. My mother, no pearls, no designer bag, just a soft sweater and an envelope in her hands. She didn't sit right away, just stood by the window looking out at the water. I wrote something, she said. I didn't know how else to say it. Then she slid the envelope across the table and left. Inside was a clipped article from the local paper. It was titled, "When Pride Replaces Love, We Lose Both." A letter from a mother. Her words surprised me. She wrote about fear, about image, about how she'd measured her children by who fit the picture instead of who they really were. She wrote about me. And she ended it with this. I thought dignity meant keeping control. But I see now it means letting go. I read it 3 times. Not with anger, not even triumph. Just peace. Not everything needs to be fixed. Not everything can be. But regret doesn't erase the past. It just opens the door. And sometimes that's enough. I came back on a Sunday. Same brunch crowd. Same terrace. Same ocean view that once made me feel like an outsider looking in. And I wore the same linen dress, same sandals, but nothing about me was the same. This time there were no gasps, no stiff smiles, no servers being summoned to stop me. Just nods, just space. The same people who once whispered now offered polite greetings, like maybe they'd always known. They hadn't. But that wasn't the point. Maya walked beside me, her steps, calm, steady. We passed the tables my family once dominated. The ones they guarded, like gates, to a kingdom I was never allowed to enter. Now they were just tables. And at the center of the terrace, the one with the best view, we sat there. No one tried to stop us. No one said, "That's reserved." Because they knew, not just who I was, but who I had become. Across the way, I saw my father. He stood near the bar, dressed sharp as ever, but older now. He didn't walk over, didn't raise a glass, just stood with his hands in his pockets and looked at me. Not with anger, not even shame, just distance. Maybe that's all he had left to offer. My mother was beside him. She saw me too. This time she didn't look away. She gave a small nod, almost imperceptible. But it was enough. I didn't need her apology anymore. I had already moved beyond needing to win. Because this wasn't about victory. It was about finally being able to breathe in a space that once suffocated me. I looked out at the ocean, the same view, but through different eyes. And for the first time, I wasn't proving anything. I was just present, at peace. I lifted my glass, not in triumph, not in defiance, but in release. They tried to erase me from this place, so I bought it and turned it into something better. If you felt something real listening to this story, leave a comment. Tell us what part hit you the hardest, and don't forget, we drop new stories like this every single day. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss one.